welcome back to my Lawyer's Corner. My name is Tseho Khailai. Welcome back to my Lawyer's Corner. If you are new to my Lawyer's Corner, welcome. You are very, very welcome. And if you are returning to my Lawyer's Corner, welcome as well. I am so glad to have you return to my Lawyer's Corner. Those of you that know and are familiar with my Lawyer's Corner know that on my Lawyer's Corner we focus on educating and giving you nuggets here and there about the law around us as it is happening, as it is unfolding, especially focusing on labor relations mostly, but your criminal cases are not out of touch. They are my favorite subject. So without any further ado, let's talk about this past week in our criminal cases. And one of the matters that has been a key focal point for me has been the matter of Thabo Bester and Dr. Nandipha Magudumana. So Dr. Nandipha Magudumana was in court on the 29th and 30th of August applying for bail, right? So we're just gonna look at her bail application, the most important points or the most striking points that were made in her bail application, as well as what the state is alleging against her, and pretty much give an opinion on what we think the court will return with. I just want to start by saying that I do, in as much as this is, we all have our feelings around this matter that unfolded between Dr. Nandipha Magudumana, Thabo Bester, and all the other accused persons that maybe not as popular as the two have been, but we all may have some other feelings towards the whole matter itself. And I think a key focal point a key focal point that I want to focus on when doing reviews such as this on my Lawyer's Corner is to focus on the evidence at hand, on the matter at hand, and what is before the court, right? So let's look at the bail application. So Dr. Nandipha Magudumana is facing several charges, right? Corruption, fraud, aiding an escape and concealing and harboring an escapee, violating a body, amongst other things. They're facing quite a number of charges, and the state alleged that this is a Schedule 5 bail application, which means that the accused person or the applicant for bail has to show the court that it is in the interest of justice that they be released on bail. There is a matter before the Supreme Court of Appeal where Dr. Nandipha is alleging that her arrest and her subsequent return to South Africa was unlawful and wrongful, right? The High Court did overturn her application or dismiss her application on the basis that she consented to return to South Africa. So now she is appealing against that and is taking the matter to the Supreme Court of Appeal. In paragraph 8 of her bail affidavit, that's where she sort of narrates how she landed up in Tanzania, or how she left South Africa rather, and we sort of start seeing what defense is going to be laid, right? Dr. Nandipha Magudumana's case is now before court as she's now applying for bail, right? She's making a bail application. The parties agreed that the matter falls under Schedule 5 of the Criminal Procedure Act, in that there are now factors that she would need to adduce to court to show that it is in the interest of justice that she be released on bail. Factors such as whether she will stand trial, will she try to evade, will she interfere with witnesses, will she tamper with any evidence, is there any likelihood that should she be released on bail, the society would react violently against her release on bail, or is there a likelihood that she would commit another Schedule 1 offense should she be released on bail? So all of those things, she needs to show the court that it is indeed in the interest of justice that she be released on bail. and that none of those factors would come to pass, and that she will definitely stand her trial until the finalization thereof, right? Very interesting, in paragraph 8 of her bail affidavit, she outlines how she ended up leaving South Africa. And the interesting thing is that this is where we start seeing what is her possible defense. Needless to say that at bail application, in a Schedule 5 bail application, there's no onus on the accused person to state what their defense is, right? There is no onus, and a bail application is not there to determine the innocence or the guilt of the accused person. But in paragraph 8 of her bail affidavit, we start seeing what her possible defense is going to be, because she's now alleging that she departed against her will. She was being threatened by Thabo Bester, accused number 5. She says that she was instructed by him to get into a vehicle, and the vehicle left and took her to an unknown destination, right? She says she had no reason to leave the Republic, but she did so because she succumbed to the pressure and the threats that she was under accused number 5. She did not leave voluntarily. Now, in paragraph 9 of her affidavit, she expands to talk about how she was arrested in Tanzania, right? She says that the pair was apprehended in Tanzania by members of the South African Police Services, the SAPS, right? She says when they were arrested, they spoke to her in Zulu. They told her that she had been arrested. They told her that they found her passport in the cubbyhole, and she says she didn't know that her passport was there, right? She instructed her advocate while she was in custody. She was then brought back to South Africa and had been in custody since the 13th of April 2023. Remember that she's still challenging the lawfulness of her arrest. That matter is now pending, as she's petitioning to the Supreme Court of Appeal and saying that her arrest in Tanzania and her subsequent return to South Africa was unlawful, right? The High Court overturned the application. They dismissed the application with costs, citing that she returned to South Africa. She consented to be returned to South Africa. Now, I pause there for a second to make these points. She doesn't state how exactly they got to Tanzania. She's saying that she was with the accused person in South Africa and was instructed by him to get into a vehicle and to be taken to an unknown destination. Now, did they drive all the way to Tanzania? How many borders did they cross to get to Tanzania? Who assisted them? Was she blindfolded? Was it against her will? Did they fly to Tanzania? Did they get on a train? Did they meet anyone else? Did they have any conversation? I mean, she's not really saying anything, but merely saying that it was against her will. Now, fine, it is definitely her right to remain silent in terms of her actual defense, but saying that she was instructed against her will at this stage, and personally for me, in my opinion, is not enough to show that she was really taken against her will and instructed to be taken to Tanzania against her will and under threat, under duress from the accused person. Remember, she had been with the accused person. She doesn't say what was the situation of how did she come into being with the accused person. Now, that's a very interesting point, right? How did she come to being with the accused person, knowing that he is Thabo Bester, who had been in prison for rape and murder, and now subsequently not in prison for rape and murder? This is the same person that we all knew to have died in 2022 in a prison fire. She doesn't explain any of that. And for me, that's something interesting that raises an eyebrow, as to say, right, you were coerced by this person, but how did you come into being in the presence of this person without alerting any member of the police service or anyone in authority for that matter? If this person ends up now threatening you and taking you off to another country, right? Now, as I alluded, I alluded to the charges, facing multiple charges, right? Facing charges of aiding escape and concealing and harboring an escapee, facing several counts of violating a body, several counts of fraud, and she indicates that she's pleading not guilty to any of these charges. She says that she wants to be released on bail because she will not endanger society and she doesn't have a propensity of committing any other scheduled offense of any nature and can afford a bail amount of 10,000 Rand. Now that is her case, and obviously the state is opposing the application to her release on bail. Several allegations from the state that she falsified her address, she provided an address knowing that she no longer stays at that address. She was suspended from practicing as a medical doctor. The state says that she was in possession of 2 other people's passports when she was arrested, and that when she left the country, she didn't even use her own passport. But remember, she did allege that she didn't even know where she was going. She was taken to an unknown destination. She didn't even say how she got to that unknown destination. So that's still a very big question mark for me. According to the state, there's multiple more criminal charges that are being investigated and potentially being added against the accused person. And it is in the state's opinion, or rather based on the evidence before the state, as well as further investigations that they are making, it is the state's contention that the accused person has a lot to lose by staying in the Republic and therefore will be likely to evade her trial. She has ties in Zimbabwe, according to the state. She has ties in Zimbabwe and will probably find a way to leave the Republic. Should she be granted bail, right? Yeah, in my opinion, I must say though that, remember, bail application doesn't serve the purpose of determining the innocence or the guilt of an accused person. But in a Schedule 5 bail application, the accused person needs to show the court, like I said, that it is in the interest that they be released on bail, right? And in my opinion, it takes a certain level of opening up and playing open cards with the court in order to show the court that it is indeed in the interest of justice, while not being obliged to disclose your defense. That is not what I'm saying. You're not obliged to disclose your defense. You still need to play open cards enough for a court to have enough evidence before it to make a decision regarding your release on bail, right? And there's just several question marks. While I truly believe that counsel for the defense, counsel for Dr. Nandipha Magudumana did a very good job in representing her and representing her, basically presenting her case to the court and showing why it would be in the interest of justice that she be released on bail. I do think that there are a lot of question marks that still remain unanswered, right? It still remains a question mark for me in particular, whether she will definitely stand towards until the finalization of her trial. I'm not really believing that she left the Republic against her will, because she doesn't play completely open cards with the court about how she left the Republic. Sure, she was instructed, that's all she says, is that she was instructed by accused number 5, who's Thabo Bester, to get into a vehicle and was then taken to an unknown destination. Did they drive there? Did they fly there? Were there other people? Did they have any conversation there? What were the threats? What showed her, what indicated to her that the threat was so imminent that he would actually act on the threat? And why did she not open, when she was returned to South Africa, why did she not open criminal charges against Thabo Bester, kidnapping charges? Because according to her version, she was kidnapped. She was kidnapped. And if it's for us to believe this version that she places before the court, why didn't she lay charges of kidnapping against her kidnapper? If there were charges of kidnapping, I would be more likely to believe that she did indeed leave the Republic against her. Remember, please watch my previous clip where I was talking about how lovey-dovey Thabo Bester and Dr. Nandipha Magudumana were in the first time that they appeared together in person before court. Bonnie and Clyde. It was Bonnie and Clyde. And now Bonnie is claiming that Clyde kidnapped her, but Bonnie didn't lay any kidnapping charges against Clyde. Why must the court believe her? Why must the court believe her? There were technicalities that were raised in terms of the schedule of the offences. I'm still inclined to believe that it is a Schedule 5 bail application, owing to the seriousness of the offences, owing to the corruption having an element of colluding between two or more people. And even though the state is saying that Dr. Nandipha only paid the apparent security guard 40,000 rand, while the charge sheet reads that she's charged with 2.5 million, the agreement, the collusion, the common purpose was relating to an amount that is over the 500,000 rand threshold, and I do believe that that makes it a Schedule 5 bail application. Whether all the other charges fall under Schedule 1, as long as there is a Schedule 5 charge amongst all the charges that have been preferred against the accused person, it becomes a Schedule 5 bail application, and that is neither here nor there, right? Yeah, it's very interesting for me to imagine what the court's decision is going to be, because when you look at the totality of the matter, in as much as bail application is not there to make a decision on the innocence or guilt of the accused person, there's just too many questions that arise. When Dr. Nandipha Magudumana was instructed to get into the vehicle by Thabo Bester in her own version, what had transpired prior to then? What had transpired prior to then that led to her believing, or what had transpired leading up to that point that made her even agree to be engaging with someone that she knew had been in prison for murder and rape? That part still baffles me. It still baffles me how she had been in contact with this person, had been seen with this person, and still wants the court to believe that at that point she had been coerced to, out of her free will, be taken out of South Africa with or being under threat by Thabo Bester. At which point did she not think to alert any law enforcement official of the presence of someone who's supposed to be in custody serving a sentence for rape and murder? It really, really remains to be seen. But I must admit, I do think that the court is likely to grant bail. The matter has been postponed until the 4th of September for the decision, for the outcome of the bail application. If I was the magistrate in the matter, I would not grant bail. If I was the magistrate in the matter, although I believe that the counsel for Dr. Nandipha did a really, really, really good job in representing her and presenting her matter before court, I do think that the state left a lot of stones unturned in their opposition of bail. They could have presented a tighter case. I feel like the state had ample time between her arrest on the 13th of April and the 29th of August, when the bail application finally proceeded. The state had ample time to gather as much evidence that would be a concrete opposition to the bail application. However, that being said, I don't think that the accused person has indicated or presented factors that show that it would be in the interest of justice that she be released on bail. And if I was the magistrate in this matter, I would not grant bail in this matter. But it remains to be seen. Maybe I'm wrong. We'll see on Monday. Maybe I am wrong, and that she will be granted bail. We'll see on Monday, the 4th of September. Remains to be seen, and it will be very, very interesting. I can't wait to come back and talk a lot more about this matter as it unfolds, as it proceeds, and for us to follow on with the trial. I hope you will be joining me on that journey along with me as we analyze this matter, as it unfolds, and as we learn about criminal procedure as it is happening in real time. My name is Tseho Khailai, and I want to say thank you very much for joining yet another episode of my Lawyer's Corner, and I will see you next time.